Hello everybody and welcome to the rigging group of tutorials for our pig project. I'm planning on having I think 3, maybe 4 tutorials for this section, and I'm hoping that they will be less than 15 minutes long. Okay? So after you have textured your pig, we need to clean up its file. If I select my pig and open up the channel box, which can be opened by pressing Control A, and pressing Control A again, it has all of these inputs. And this is a really long list, and it can affect the way that, well, it can actually mess up your model. Okay, and this is called history, and history comes from all the work we do. So when I create a new polygon, it has the history of being created. Then I extrude a face. It adds to the history, polyface extrude. Then I go and edit the UVs, and it brings that in as another edit. Okay, so as we go, we get all this history built up. Well, we just need to delete that. Okay, so you select your character, then you go up to the menu, edit, down to delete by type, and we want to delete the history. Okay, we usually delete the history when we are finished with a model, and while we are building the model, it's not a bad idea to delete history. But once we bind our joints to our model, do not delete history. Let me show you why. If I, for example, use this deformer, which isn't a joint, but it's the same concept, and I bend my character. Okay, this is just something called a bend deformer. That leaves history on my pig. It remembers that it has the bend 1. Okay, so if I wanted to edit this and come in and change this back to 0, I can. Okay, but if I put back 2 and then I select my pig, go to edit, delete by type history, now my pig is stuck in that position. And as great as a pose as that is, we wouldn't want this to be his default pose. Okay, so once we have created our rig, we don't want to delete history. Okay, so I'm gonna delete the history on this guy. Okay, so now he doesn't have any inputs, any more inputs. Okay, the next thing we do, that's deleting the history. The next thing we do is we go to the outliner, which is under Window, Outliner, and we look inside the scene and see what is in here. Okay, here we have two nodes. These are polygons, and this is from, I have two of my pigs in here. Okay, so I don't need this second one, so I should just delete it. Okay, but you also might have, maybe there are some things in here that look like this, or maybe your pig is hiding under a group or something. All you need is your pig model. So if it's under something like this, after you have already deleted the history, then you can middle mouse click on the word polysurface and drag it out, or you can select the pig and press Shift P, and that will pull it out. And then I'm just going to delete all these. In a character modeling type file, you would generally just have the one model. If your model has multiple parts like clothing or something, then you would have them all listed out, and they would all be under one group. You want to keep the file as clean as possible. and in the outliner, that's how we do that. Okay, so once the outliner is clean, the next thing I want to do is rename everything that I have in my scene so that it makes sense. So I double click the word polysurface 13 because I don't know what polysurface 13 is, but if I change it to pig, now I know what pig is. Maybe I could even change it to pig model to be even more specific. Okay, so that is the first step to creating a rig, is cleaning up the model file. Oh, there is one last thing we need to do. In the channel box, right now I have translates X, Y, and Z to 0, rotates X, Y, and Z are at 0, and scales are at 1. Okay, if along the way, when creating an object, you have moved it, rotated it, and scaled it, you're going to get information inside of this channel box. We want to, when creating a rig, we want to have all of this information frozen or zeroed out. So if I go to modify, freeze transformations, now this cube is locked down to this position. Now why would we do that? We do that so that if I now go in and move my character, let's call this a character, I scale him, and then I say, okay, now I want to go to a new pose. I'm going to start with my default pose. All I have to do is go in and press 0, just click and select all those, click and select these, and press 1, and now it's back to its default position. Okay, being able to bring a character back to its default position is very important, and it's also just a really good way to keep the file clean. Now with our pig, once we freeze these transformations, we're actually not going to use those to bring our model back to its default pose, because we're going to be adding joints into the body, and we will use the joints information to zero out its position. Okay, so this file is ready to move on to adding the joints.